Hey, Jay Carper here again from American Torah. Today I want to talk about another passage that frequently comes up when people say that we're not supposed to be keeping the law anymore. Today I want to read to you Romans 10:4. It says, "For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes." That sounds pretty clear, right? It says that Christ is the end of the law. So Christ came to do away with the law. I mean, how much clearer could it be? But you have to remember that even in English, words have various meanings. The same word can mean a number of different things. For example, if you and Jack have an agreement and you're both doing what you're supposed to do, we say that you and Jack are both holding up your ends of the agreement. Does that mean that the agreement has been canceled? No. It means that you're just both doing what you're supposed to do. What if you've never played baseball before? How do you know which end of the bat to hold up? Well, does that mean that you're not supposed to use the bat anymore because you figured out which end of the bat to hold? Of course not. One more example. The ends to which you work are a paycheck, or freedom, or retirement. We all work for different reasons. But in this case, the word end means reason. What's the reason that you work? Once you've figured out the ends of your labor, that doesn't mean that your labor ends. That just means that you know why you're doing it. So, on top of that, we have to remember that the Bible was not written in English. It was written in Hebrew and Greek and a little bit of Aramaic. And even in Greek, words have multiple meanings. And that's why the same Greek word can be translated into multiple English words. In this case, the word end is the Greek word telos. In Greek, Thayer's Greek Dictionary says that it can mean the end or the termination. It can mean the last in a series. It can mean the purpose or the central point of anything. So far, that seems a lot like the English word end. Strangely enough, it can also mean eternal, or it can refer to a government fee, like a toll. Now, is termination a reasonable interpretation of the Greek word telos? Sure. And even in this verse, if this verse is all you read, it sounds pretty reasonable. Christ is the termination, the cancellation of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes. But we can't read just one verse. We have to read the whole Bible to understand what's going on. So let's read a few more verses that use this same Greek word telos, but use it in a different way. In all three of these verses, the word telos is used to mean the purpose or the goal of something. This is James chapter 5, verse 11. "Behold, we consider those blessed who remain steadfast. You have heard of the steadfastness of Job, and you have seen the purpose of the Lord, how the Lord is compassionate and merciful." The word purpose there is the Greek word telos. Job's steadfastness and God's compassion and mercy weren't the end of the Lord. So telos can't reasonably be interpreted as the termination in that verse. It has to mean the purpose, the Lord's purpose for doing what he did with Job. Now here's 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 8 and 9. Though you have not seen him, you love him. Though you do not see him now, you believe in him and rejoice with joy that is inexpressible and filled with glory, obtaining the outcome of your faith, the salvation of your souls. Now, here again, we can't reasonably say that this means the termination of your faith. It means the purpose. Why do you have faith? The salvation of your souls. Just like, why do you work? For a paycheck. In both of those cases, the word end in English and telos in Greek means the outcome of something, the reason for doing a thing. Here's another one. This is 1 Timothy 1, verse 5 from the NIV. "The goal of this command is love, which comes from a pure heart and a good conscience and a sincere faith." The goal of this command is love. Goal is the Greek word telos. We can't reasonably say that once we have love, we can stop doing what Paul was telling Timothy to do in that verse. I'm not going to go back and read what it was, but read 1 Timothy chapter 1 in context, and you'll see pretty clearly that telos cannot mean end or termination. It must mean goal there. Now, I want to go back to Matthew chapter 5, some of the things we read last week. Jesus said, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." That's Matthew 5:17. In the word there for abolish, abolish is another Greek word that means to tear down, to destroy, to dissolve, overthrow. That would mean to terminate. Does it really make sense to say that Jesus did not come to terminate or to abolish the law? Instead, he came to terminate it. Well, he can't both not come to terminate it and come to terminate it at the same time. That doesn't make any sense. If we interpret Romans 10:4 to mean that Christ came to terminate the law, then Matthew 5:17 becomes nonsense. Instead, if we interpret it to mean the aim of the law or the central point of the law, listen to this. Christ is the central point of the law that ties everything together for righteousness to everyone who believes. Now that makes a lot more sense in light of Matthew 5:17. This is Jay Carper from American Torah. Be blessed.